Hey everyone, welcome back to Valley Chat. Pastor John Karolus here with Pastor Scott Seidler, and we are continuing in our Vision and Values series, touching on the fourth of our driving values behind the mission that we have at Shepherd, and that is how Jesus turns my friends and neighbors into my family of faith. Scott, I could say, confidently that I feel like you and I have become like family over the years, and that's just a
Oh,
small
thank you.
picture of what I think happens, at Shepherd for a lot of our family members. As you think about your time here, how have you seen God bring the family of Shepherd together over the years?
I love hospitality, and I think when I got here, Shepherd already had the attribute of a place of warm welcome. I've told the story, I think, on this podcast before of, getting here on my first Sunday in the middle of a hot August 2019. And, on our Shea campus, we've got all kinds of treats for the after church hospitality hour. And I just remember there's like ice cream out there after church and popsicles. And I'm like, wow, what church serves ice cream and popsicles after church? All because Chris Doyle, who kind of spearheads that hospitality hour, she wants people to stick around. She wants kids to enjoy sweet treats. And of course, then you've got, at that stage, 48-year-old me. And I'm like, well, I'll have some ice cream after church. I mean, absolutely. So I think that's part of Shepherd's DNA. And I've certainly appreciated the warm welcome that Shepherd has extended to my family over the years. Everybody from like Shirley Glenn on our Shea campus, who part of our altar guild, care team, and she just is the warmest human being you'd ever want to meet. There's sunshine only in her life, never a dark cloud, it seems, and so I just like that. And it certainly makes me feel welcome, and it certainly encourages me to extend that same grace to others. What about you, John? You've been here for almost as long as I have. What's your experience of that spirit of welcome and outreach from our Shepherd family?
Yeah, one of the funny things about Shepherd being my first, official call and placement into the ministry is that now that it's been 5 years, it's been the longest time I've lived in one place since high school. And you can't just do that anywhere. It has to feel like home. And
Yeah,
it's a blessing to say that, it really does feel like home here. And it feels like a family I want to continue to grow with and be a part of. And one of the things I love about Mountain View, and that I tell my brother pastors and other ministry contexts who kind of ask, because you hit the 3 to 5 year mark, and sometimes there's conversation around, oh, are other churches, trying to get a hold of you? Are you looking to get into a different setting? Are you hoping to change your context? And I can honestly say every single time, like, I don't think I would find anywhere else a church that is so like accepting of me as I am, rather than kind of expecting a certain kind of
right,
persona out of me. I
right.
feel like me and especially Mountain View have just gotten to know each other really well over the years.
hmm
And what I hear when I talk to people who come into the Shepherd family that have come in since I arrived is that they experience that same kind of hospitality of, oh, I just feel like there's a spot for me here. Like, this congregation really is receptive to who I am and wants to
hmm
walk with and grow with me as we all kind of discover where God is working on each of us and changing in each of us. So one specific example I have seen is that there's a condo complex across the street from the Mountain View campus that worshipers at both of our campuses live at, and they have formed their own kind of little community and fellowship groups within that group of condos. And some of them
hmm
walk over to Mountain View on Sunday morning. Some of them drive to Mountain View or drive over to Shea. Some of them have been worshiping at Shea for decades. And it's really cool to hear about the stories they share of seeing the other church members, walking along the sidewalk and inviting people to church, or spending time in each other's condos, game nights, and watching sports and things like that. It really is just a picture of what a family of faith really is supposed to do. So, pretty powerful a picture for me. When we think about, we talked about kind of our lived experience right now, but also I think there's scriptural pictures of this principle of God creating a new family with believers. As you think about kind of the scriptural narrative, Where do you see examples of that arising in the Bible?
I think we're going to, well, in this weekend, we'll be talking about, the invitation in the New Testament. I believe it's Andrew and Peter and the invitation, come and see this Jesus. Am I right on Andrew, Peter? I feel like I'm a little off base right now.
Nathaniel.
I'm having what's that?
It's Nathaniel.
Nathaniel. So sorry. I had Andrew in my head. And it's just a little blank right there. I think that was a senior. I think. Yep. Yep. That was a senior moment. Yeah. So this idea though of saying, come and see, that for me is just a great scriptural, foundation when, people are hearing about Jesus and the invitation, come and see this Jesus, come and see this experience of spirituality that is real, down to earth, in the flesh. Doesn't expect anything more than what you bring, is there ready to receive you helpfully, hopefully. That's the kind of scriptural passage that inspires me to remember the church is supposed to be a place, and my favorite word, that's normal. That's a place where people go and they find that there's this everyday hospitable experience that can be found, and there's no second agenda or ulterior motive for having you come in there. It's just the idea of we're all trying to figure out life, how to make it through the decades that God gives us on this planet, and how to do so in a way where we've got shoulder to shoulder other human beings doing the same thing that are asking, how can I help you? And so for me, I want Shepherd to be a place that when our members think about the ministry, they want to say to their neighbors, hey, come and see what's going on here at Shepherd. Because it's just a really great place to learn about God, to go deeper in the faith of Jesus, to learn about the experience of welcome through especially the sacraments of baptism and the Lord's Supper. And so for me, that's the passage that really animates my heart. What about you, John? What's your kind of biblical passage? I hope I didn't take yours from you, because I know we're
No,
both
no,
kind of
not
the
at all.
anchor to that this weekend.
In the book of Acts, the the church is described as a place that cared for each other's needs.
Yeah,
And at that time, to join the church was to kind of take a very decisive step away from whatever community or culture you were previously engaged with, and sometimes even your own kind of earthly family. And the church always embraced one another and said, we're going to step in and step up in a way that will provide for some of the void and need that appear when the division can show up as
right.
well. And so I kind of draw a lot of inspiration from that idea of everyone is stepping out or away from something when they step into a church, especially a church like ours that's open about the fact that
Yeah,
God's primary work in saving us is the work He does in changing us through
right.
the ongoing movement of the Spirit within us. And so we're honest about the fact that you and I are being changed, and our church staff is being changed, and our volunteers and leaders and longstanding members and brand new members, everybody, like, change is the name of the game. That's what's going on when we talk about spiritual growth. And so we can be honest about the fact that uh, the world kind of pushes you away from change. The world says just lean into those things that are static in your life. But at
Yeah,
Shepherd, it's a free and safe conversation about where is God working, and how can I be a part of a positive movement in your life, and how can you
yeah,
step alongside me and help me in my life. And so I think I see that a lot in the narrative of Acts, and also just
you
kind of
know,
in general,
yeah,
throughout the prophets bringing God's word into the assembly of believers,
yeah,
into the assembly of God's people, and how it's always meant to be this communally experienced thing. It's not really until, I don't know, the evangelical movement of the 20th century that we get such a hyper focus on individual faith. Um, Prior to that, it's community, and it's what
yeah.
draws us together, and it's actually in each other that we see God revealing the provision for our needs, which is powerful.
Yeah,
Another
I was
really
gonna ask
exciting
you,
thing,
John. I was just going
yeah,
to jump in real quick and ask you, as you think about the surprising ways in which God creates community. I know you work at the preschool, obviously, and you're there and you see the little kiddos come in every day with their moms and dads. Talk a little bit about this unique connection point from the kids, the little toddlers, and how they through their kind of growing and developing faith, they actually serve as conduits to bring their own family in, except it's kids reaching out to adults.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing, and it happens a lot, maybe more than you'd think.
Yeah,
I know as we go through ministry life, we get familiar with the idea that when a couple gets married and has kids, there sometimes is a spiritual awakening within them, and there's this kind of instinct they feel that they should be caring for the spiritual needs of their kids as well. And at the preschool, what I see is after kids have been in chapel for a few weeks or a few months and they have heard about what baptism is, they know that Jesus loves them, they are familiar with praying and thanking God and singing about him, they bring those principles home and start working them into the routine of the family. And there have been a number of situations where families have actually approached me and said, I want to hear more about what my child is saying about baptism or about church or about Jesus. And we end up having a conversation where then they take a step toward worshiping with us on Sundays, or even just becoming more intentional in their discipleship life in their own home. And it's cool. There's one family that comes to mind where the children were the ones who really uh, showed this spiritual interest and life with God already connecting to them, that
yeah.
opened up the parents to the idea that maybe they should have a more meaningful connection with a church. And they both came from different backgrounds and had different questions for me about what that really looked like. One
Mm,
coming from a more skeptical, kind of curious perspective, one coming more from kind of a church confusion, church hurt sort of background. And when they experienced Shepherd and the family of Shepherd, it was like, here's a place where we can figure us out because God's working on us and working on everybody else in the room. It's a pretty powerful thing.
yeah, yeah. I for me the uh, I think about new members who come really as either they're entering back into the church or they're truly just kind of we might call them converts, but they're really new to the Christian faith. When I interact with those kinds of new Christians, it inspires me. It gives me a fresh perspective on faith. It reminds me that while I've got, a lot of experience, obviously in the Christian church behind me, it freshens me up to appreciate people in my orbit in maybe a little bit different way where here in my neighborhood, I know my neighbors and I get used to seeing them, but sometimes I forget that they are in a place that a season can arise and it's an opportunity to make a fresh invitation to come into the Christian church because you just never know when a new season comes and then that jars my neighbor out of the doldrums of regularity and just kind of your everyday life, and it offers an opportunity for them maybe to be in a position to be more receptive to a new invitation to baptize that new season of life with participation in the church, a spiritual conversation, breakfast, lunch, or coffee with me, even though I'm a pastor. I'm their neighbor in a sense first because I live next door to them. And so I just think that what is it that gives us the edge to keep our eyesight fresh with our friends and neighbors, because it's through that fresh eyesight that we then may be able to have them, by God's grace, become part of our family of faith. And as you think about witnessing here, especially in the land of Scottsdale, where people don't come to Scottsdale to get connected with church, they come to Scottsdale to retire, to be outside, facing the rattlesnakes at this time of the year as they start to emerge again. What do you think about witnessing in this very flush environment with wealth and activity and all kinds of distractions?
Like everywhere, I think, and maybe, but especially in places like our community, authenticity is appreciated on a different level, uh, in the sense that I think this is something everybody struggles with, but in a setting where it feels like everyone you see is kind of like pedal to the metal, all the lights are on and shining brightly, like everything just seems to be together and going perfectly
Uh-huh.
for everybody else. There's like this pressure to sort of put off that projection, and
Yep.
And what people have shared with me who I look at and think, man, I feel like I know this person, and wow, they really do have it together. Like their life is really that good. And they have shared that when I come to church, I don't have to be like this super perfect person or this person that has
Right.
everything together. I can come and just receive God's blessings and receive his instruction and word in a way that that doesn't question or really get scrutinizing about who I am and what I'm doing. And another cool thing that happens, and this has happened um, a lot of times, I can think of two specific families that have said this exact phrase to me, which is when I came to church on Sunday, I recognized the guitarist who plays at Handlebar J on Saturday nights. And
Lovely.
it was like, we one of those couples is they're new to retirement, and they when they moved to the area, that was a place that they started to go. And then this other family that shared it with me, it's like it's a preschool family, and they said, hey, when we came to church on Sunday, it was like, wait a second, we know that guy, and we just love their band, and whenever they play, we try to go and see them. And I'm like, this is just, shout out to Dwayne, because he's like the face of
It's great.
Shepherd out there in Scottsdale. And it's just a cool way that we don't talk about at seminary, that the guy that plays at everybody's favorite country western bar also, is a major front door to your church. It's pretty awesome thing.
That's right. That's right. In 1 Peter 3:15, one of the best known passages when it comes to evangelism, always be prepared to give a response, an answer for the hope that is in you. And, I think as we come into this season, we're going through the values of Shepherd in our Next Step sermon series, this opening set of sermons over the first 7 weeks of the 2026 new year. We come to this fundamental statement that Jesus turns my friends and neighbors into my family of faith. And the way that he goes about that is not through slick advertising. It's not through all kinds of programmatic attractional ministry. The attractor in Jesus' economy and the household of God is meant to be each and every individual Christian. Some are more extroverted, some are more introverted. We get that. Everybody has a different role to fill in the church. But if we can always be in a posture to always be ready to give an answer for the hope that's in us, keeping our eyes on the horizon, scanning who is it that may be receptive to an invitation or the offer of prayer or some kind of Christ-centered, Bible-driven encouragement, we're going to be doing the work that God wants us to do as a church. Here at Shepherd, we do not spend a lot of money doing all kinds of cute advertising. And we are growing by about 100 people every year in our congregation's worship life between two campuses. The reason why that happens, in part, is because Scottsdale is a transient community. We got lots of visitors that walk through the door. But another critical reason, and even more fundamental, is that as people walk through the door, they're not just interacting with me or John or Pastor Allen as a minister or even our ministry program. They're being welcomed warmly by the people that are there at the front door who are congregation members, everyday normal human beings. And so the encouragement coming out of this podcast for all of you who are listening, always be ready to give an answer for the hope that is in you. Scan the horizon, identify those who may be in a season that is receptive to the gospel of Jesus Christ, the invitation to come to church, get connected, and whatever John, myself, Pastor Allen, Karen Patterson, our Director of Ministry Programming, whatever we can do to support you, to fill in the blanks if you're not feeling quite up to the spiritual leadership role, believe me, we are always glad to be there for you. Thanks a lot for listening today to this Shepherd podcast. Look forward to finishing out our conversation around the strategy, mission, vision of our worship life and worshiping congregation with one more sermon to go in this series. And we got a podcast coming up that'll talk about kind of our key gets for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years of our life together. Thanks, John, for joining. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.